We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Red Winter Issue 1 from Scout Comics. This is from 2019, created by Michael Gordon and Francisco Muniz. Writer was Michael Gordon, artist was Francisco Muniz, colorist was Roland Kaliniz, letters by Nikki Sherman, cover art by Chris Sheehan. There was a variant cover by Chris Hammer. I don't know which cover I have. I think I have the regular cover. It doesn't say on the inside. It doesn't tell me who the editor is, so I can't credit them. Okay, so on the inside we have a much different art style than the cover. Well, in a way. The cover's really good, but it's a little deceptive. The interior art is much more rough and blocky, in my opinion, but it does kind of work for the type of story that it is. I don't like this art style, but I can see why some people do. It's got its own kind of unique indie look to it. So this is sort of a Russian crime noir. This guy is in Moscow. His name's Eli, and he is working for this Russian mob. And one of their sites got hit, and now they want him to act as an investigator because he used to be a cop in New York. And for some reason, probably being on the take or something, he's working for the Russians to try and solve who did it, who actually did it, because they have ideas, but they're not sure, and they might end up going to war with a rival gang if they're not careful. Now that rival gang has some ties with Eli, and he's kind of a jerk. He doesn't show respect to the Russians when he goes to see them on either side, so his history with both groups is really not good, and he makes it worse. And the Russian mobster's kid is this punk, literally a punk. He has like the spiky green hair and all this. He really wants to just go ahead and go to war, but Eli's kind of caught in the middle trying to keep the peace. And then he finds out something that will change the entire aspects of what's happening and who he thinks is involved. And it's a really interesting twist. It's got a lot of potential. Some of the dialogue's a little rigid, and some of his actions don't really make sense from the perspective of someone who wants to stay alive, but he's kind of a raging alcoholic and seems to have a little bit of a death wish, so I guess there's that. All in all, it was an okay comic. Was it worth $4? No, I don't really think it was. It's $2 good for sure. Maybe $2.50, but if you could find it for less than $4, I would say pick it up. It's not really worth the $4, but it wasn't a bad story. It might get better. It's not the worst thing I've ever read, but I'm hoping it gets better. I'll probably check out issue 2. I'm not that big of a fan of the art style, but it's not bad for the indie look that it is. So I'm willing to pick up issue 2, preferably not for cover price. So I'm fairly confident in saying go ahead and pick this up if you can find it for $3 or less. Most likely you'll be able to find this in a dollar bin in a few months, but I wouldn't feel comfortable paying full price for it. It's really not worth that, but it does seem to be a pretty interesting setup and story. I'm more intrigued about this guy's past, but they really didn't go into it too much in this issue, so I'm going to check out issue 2. That being said, that's just my take on it. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Red Winter Issue 2 from Scout Comics, created by Michael Gordon and Francisco Muniz, written by Michael Gordon, art by Francisco Muniz, colors by Roland Kaliniz, letters by Nikki Sherman, cover art by Chris Sheehan. Alright, so this is a 2019 book, and you would think, well, this is going to be total garbage. Well, the paper is kind of thin. They're cheaping out a little bit on the cover thickness, which is a big mistake. The interior pages aren't too bad. I do like the cover image. Overall, I think that's pretty solid. It doesn't really tell you what's happening in the book. It's not dynamic, but this isn't an action-packed book per se, although there is quite a bit in this issue. So last issue, we were introduced to Mr. Winter and kind of his role working for a Russian mob and how he's kind of a bagman, used to be a detective. Well, now he's trying to figure out who killed these Russian foot soldiers and why, and trying to prevent a gang war effectively respectively. Well, he finds out a whole lot about what's happening, and we see the person that we saw at the end of issue 1 is taking him to meet with his sidekick or partner in crime named Yuri, but Winter gets followed, and things really hit the fan from there. This is a pretty brutal issue. A lot of swearing, a lot of violence, and yeah, it got pretty gory real fast. Like, they did not hold back. The violence is fairly realistic, it's pretty brutal, and it really went where you didn't think it would go. This is a massive step up from last issue. I didn't hate last issue, but this one was definitely worth the money because it really gets down and dirty real fast. The art style is very indie looking. It's very rough and kind of boxy looking. Reminds me a lot of Frank Vasco that does the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Urban Legends. Reminds me of that for some reason, but I'd have to say I like Vasco's art a little better. Overall, this was a pretty solid issue, and it has a crazy twist ending that I thought might be there, but did not expect them to actually do. All in all, a solid comic, definitely worth picking up. You'll need to pick up issue 1 if you want to understand what's happening in this one, though, and the first one is a slightly weaker book, but I would definitely say this was a good issue, and I'm going to pick up issue 3 if I can, because I was really impressed with it. That being said, that's just my take on it. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we are looking at Red Winter issue 3. This is a 4-part miniseries created by Michael Gordon and Francisco Muniz, written by Michael Gordon, art by Francisco Muniz, colorist was Rollins, Kalnins, letterer was Nikki Sherman, cover art by Chris Sheehan. So this is put out by Scout Comics. They tend to do some stuff that I find really boring, but as generic as the cover looks, this is actually a pretty interesting miniseries. Because of the events of last issue, which resulted in some really bad things and some strange people finding themselves next to each other. The gang war has started between the skinheads and this other gang. I can't pronounce most of these names. They're Russian and I don't speak Russian. Unfortunately, I can't really elaborate much beyond that. And Winter has had to get his son to a mob doctor who thankfully is not only a little bit compassionate, he also owes Winter a favor, and the guy's a raging alcoholic, but he manages to get his son Joseph stabilized. Meanwhile, Joseph's friends are coming into Moscow. Things are not looking very good. They have to get out of the city. Winter proposes a sort of deal with Andropov, and that could go really bad really quickly for him and probably everyone else, and we are left with a pretty wicked cliffhanger ending. Winter has a plan, but it doesn't look like it's a very good one. It looks very, very desperate. So we'll have to see how next issue plays out, but this was a really solid issue. It felt a little bit rushed at times, but overall, I didn't feel cheated for my money. This is definitely a mature title, so don't buy this one for your kids, but all in all, I will recommend it. I thought it was a solid issue. This miniseries is pretty good, and I'm enjoying it. I'm curious to know how it's going to wrap up, so we'll see how that plays out next issue. Hopefully, I'll have that done in a few days, or at worst, next week, but in the meantime, this is a solid recommend. I'm still not a giant fan of the art style. It's very rough, but that kind of works for it. So if you like gritty indie books, this is definitely going to be for you. But that's just my opinion. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Red Winter issue 4. This is the final part of the miniseries from Scout Comics, created by Michael Gordon and Francisco Muniz, written by Michael Gordon, art by Alberto Masagia. It's a significantly different art style than the previous 3 issues, so it's a little bit of a sudden shock to see such a significantly different art style. Colorist was Rollins Kalnins, letterer Nikki Sherman, cover art by Chris Sheehan. The cover art's okay, but but it still doesn't tell you anything about what's happening in the book. And I think the cover art was done before the interior art, and I'll explain why. The interior is very, very much a gritty action issue in this one, and nothing of that is represented on the cover. The same has been true with the previous issues, but I do like the cover art. It's just not explaining what's going on in the book. So things really hit the fan between the two Russian mobs, and we see the FBI agents. There's two of them moving in. We learn a little bit about what the motivation for setting all this up was, and we learn a lot about Joseph's involvement in that, and things go completely wrong for everyone involved in this. It's a total disaster, but overall a really good finish to the story. It has a very cinematic flair. I think this would make a really good movie. I'm kind of surprised by some of the things that happen in the issue. I thought it was handled really well. It's a good mob story, and it probably could have been a 6-issue miniseries, and I think if it ever became a movie, it would probably be a little bit more gritty looking than this issue makes it out. The art in this issue is a little too cartoonish for the grittiness of the story and how brutal this issue really is. This definitely earned the mature readers label, and I think, like I said, this would make a really cool movie, but until that time, it's a pretty good miniseries, and the ending's kind of a downer. So I would definitely recommend this, and say if you get a chance to check it out, do so. As a standalone issue, it's not going to make any sense. You're going to have to pick up the entire miniseries, which I would recommend getting it in trade paperback. You might be able to track down these individual issues, but the print run on this was pretty low, so if you can order the single issues, I'm a big advocate of supporting the single issues, and I'm sure your local comic shop could probably do that, but if you can't, pick it up in trade paperback. I think it'll be a solid read for a long time to come. I had a lot of fun reading it. I wish that Muniz had stayed on the book for this final issue, because this final issue seems a little thicker than the previous issues, but the art style that replaced it was a lot weaker than the previous issues. I liked the gritty pencil work, the rough indie look of the first 3 issues, whereas this issue looked a little more cartoonish. It detracted a little bit from what they were trying to accomplish with the feel of the book, in my opinion. But I'll still recommend it. I thought it was a good miniseries and worth checking out. So if you like crime dramas or mob movies, this is probably up your alley. That being said, that's just my opinion. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.